Afternoon or evening, vinyl community. Harris Pilton here with another video for the VC. Today I'm looking at what I think are the most iconic 12-inch singles in musical history. I used to love a 12-inch single, although in retrospect they were a bit ridiculous because often you'd buy the 12-inch knowing you were going to buy the vinyl album 3 weeks later, which would contain the song that you just bought on the 12-inch, and normally a couple of ropey B-sides or maybe a dodgy remix by Davey Double Decks or something, and it was normally a complete waste of money, to be honest. But I still kept buying them, and I really loved 12-inches. They sort of came. When did they sort of really come in? In England, I don't know if it's the same West World. Around 82, 83, I reckon, was when HMV really just started putting walls of 12 inches up. So yeah, it was just another way to fleece the UK or the record buying public. But I've picked out what I think are the six most iconic 12 inches that kind of changed music, certainly, again, either worldwide or in the UK, for the music I love. So up first, an absolute monster, Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit picture disc. I don't know why I bought the picture disc. I mean, in my life I must have bought about 2,000-3,000 records at some point, and I think I've only ever bought 5 coloured or picture discs in my life, and this was one. It must have been the only thing they had available at the time, because Nirvana were selling pretty quickly. It's quite interesting historical, this as well, because it's got the Nirvana UK tour dates on the back, which are quite interesting because it's November, so this is 2 months after, because I remember when Nevermind came out, it was September the 25th. I always remember because I think it was my old man's birthday. And these gigs, Bradford University, Birmingham Hummingbird, Nottingham Rock City. I mean, I've been to Nottingham Rock City, and it's a great venue, but it takes about 1,500 people. And I think the Birmingham Hummingbird took even less. We've got Dublin McGonagalls, which I imagine wasn't big. I'm going to guess that these venues rapidly changed. Obviously, these, but I don't know. Maybe they did play those dates, but if they did, they must have been some of the greatest gigs of all time. Because by the time those gigs were taking place, Nirvana were absolutely humongous. So, as I say, got it on picture disc. I did actually have. I do remember I had the luminous 12-inch of Kraftwerk's neon lights. Which I think was the first ever, and it was awful because it was luminous vinyl. It played really badly, and I think my mum came into my bedroom once, and I was underneath the duvet, and she asked me what I was doing, and I said I was just playing with my glow in the dark 12-incher, and another course of expensive child therapy followed that. But yeah, Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit, absolutely changed rock music forever. I think, really, I don't think you could argue with that. Up next, and this has to be in it, New Order's Blue Monday, the biggest selling 12-inch record ever, and that's never going to get beaten. I mean, it probably helped the fact that it only came out on a 12-inch. I had a quick look at Wikipedia. This sold 700,000 copies on 12-inch, which I don't think anyone's ever got close to. But obviously not the biggest selling record ever, but other records that have sold as much would have sold on CD or cassette. And when this came out, I think vinyl and cassette were the only games in town. This came out in 83, and I'm not even sure if they ever released this on cassette. I don't think they released it on 7-inch single, but I actually used to hate this because every time I went to like a school disco, this would get played, and it would always be this and The Cure's Love Cats. And I ended up hating this. I've grown because I love New Order, but I was just so sick of this song. But I've kind of grown to love it now. I think because I've watched documentaries about it, and I've sort of realised how evolutionary it was, and it took the band months to write, and the machinery involved took up the whole studio. And of course, the legendary story is that it's a die cut sleeve. I think this is a second edition because I think the original came in a silver insert. But it's die cut, it's got bits cut out of it to look like a floppy disk. And the legend is that they lost 3p on every record they sold in this version. I don't know if that's true or not, but it seems quite likely because Factory Records was a complete shambles at the time. But yeah, New Order's Blue Monday, absolutely classic. Next up, the big moment for me in indie guitar rock, it's the Smiths, This Charming Man. Completely changed the game. This was their second single. I think it's their first single that came out on a 12-inch. Just one of the most iconic indie singles ever, and it just changed the indie game really forever, where suddenly indie became four blokes with a guitar, really. Whereas when I first was growing up, indie could mean anything. It just meant it was on an independent record label. But this kind of changed everything. This really eventually led to the Stone Roses and Oasis, and so many bands copied the Smiths in the mid-80s in England. The fantastic sleeves. I remember I sold all my Smiths 12-inches, which were all beautiful. They got the greatest sleeves ever. And I sold them in about 91 to a shop, and at the height of the vinyl slump years. And I think I sold about 15, and I got about 50p each for them, or a quid, and that was about the going rate. They didn't even want to take them off me because they were like, well, we're going to struggle to sell them, everyone wants CDs. And I think they put them out for about 3 quid each, and I remember they just sat in the shop for ages. So it's crazy now, because the Smiths 12-inches just command decent values now, sort of 25, £30 each, and they've got the amazing B-sides, and the cover art is always phenomenal. This is actually the Francis Kevorkian remix, which Morrissey hated. It's not really dancey, but it's kind of a bit dubby. It's actually pretty fantastic, because you can really hear Andy Rourke's bass. They sort of separate Andy Rourke's bass. He's one of the most underrated guitarists ever. And it's pretty decent. It's an unusual version, and it sounds decent. Morrissey hated it, and I think they either withdrew it or just stopped making it. He ordered them to stop making it. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. And that's the Smiths, This Charming Man. Next up, sort of the next phase, the next revolution in British indie guitar was the Stone Roses. This is what the world is waiting for. I must have bought it pretty early, because they very rapidly realised that the big one on this was Fool's Gold, which was where the sort of the indie dance thing really kicked in, because they recorded it despite having one of the greatest drummers of all time, Rennie. Manny was the bass player. Rennie was the drummer. They used, I think, the funky drummer from James Brown drum loop, or maybe in the Amen break, I can't remember. So they didn't really use Rennie. And it very quickly, the song Fool's Gold just became iconic, and they very quickly changed this, got rid of what the world was waiting for, and put Fool's Gold on the front, and switched the A and the B side over, because Fool's Gold is on the B side on this one. And this was a single where they had the legendary Top of the Pops edition with the Happy Mondays, who had the Manchester Rave On EP, and it was for kids my age, or for blokes my age who were into indie, it was such an iconic programme. Everyone can sort of remember watching it, when sort of two indie bands, I mean Happy Mondays were indies, Stone Roses weren't. I think they were on Silvertone, which was a kind of a major label, appeared on the same show, and yeah, incredible stuff. I kind of like Fool's Gold. I'm not that keen on What the World is Waiting For. I prefer the first album's godlike to me, but this was the beginning, the end for me. And the Stone Roses' second album, I know some people say they love it, but I wasn't a big fan. Next up, Donna Summer's I Feel Love. Definitely one of the most iconic 12-inches ever. Anyone who's become big in dance music, be it Fatboy Slim, the Chemical Brothers, just anyone who became huge, cites this. All the early electronic bands, Depeche Mode, Yazoo, Human League, New Order. I mean, New Order completely nicked the bass sound off this for Blue Monday. Cite this, and you could say this is one of the most important songs ever in dance music. This is the Patrick Cowley 15-minute mix, which I'm not a fan of actually. I think it kind of loses its way a little bit. But on the it's also got the edit mix, the 8-minute 50 edit mix, which is the amazing version. And yeah, I just think this is incredible. I Feel Love, Donna Summer. Still play it. I've been playing it for 30, 35 years and still love it every time I put it on. Lastly, Rapper's Delight, the Sugar Hill Gang. For many people, including me, this would have been the first rap, hip hop, whatever you want to call it, song ever. Just incredible. Something so many people would have memorised it. I remember sitting on the school bus and we all were sitting there trying to memorise the lines, like, you know, with a hip hop, a hit it with a hip hop, and you don't stop to rock in. And everyone on the bus would take a little part. And yeah, this has got the short version, which is about 12 minutes long, and the long version, which is about, oh God knows, 18 minutes long. It just goes on and on. And yeah, absolutely love it. Rapper's Delight. And again, so influential, a bit like the Donna Summer single. I think so many hip hop bands would have come from hearing this originally. But yeah, fantastic single. So that's I feel, the most iconic, game-changing 12 inches in my collection. Thanks for watching, and I'm sure I'll have some more videos up soon. Cheers, bye now.